Hey guys, so in this video we are going to talk about interest and money time relationships. So parang love life na siya, no? Kailangan merong interest, kailangan merong money, and then syempre kailangan meron ding time para mag-work out. Okay? So before we proceed with our discussion, let us first recall ano yung cash flows. Again, the cash flow is fundamental to every economic study. Cash flows occur in many configurations and amounts. So, na-encounter nyo na to on the previous module, no? So, we have isolated single values, series of values that are uniform, and series that increase or decrease by constant amounts or constant percentages. Now, in this video, we are going to develop derivations for all the commonly used engineering economy factors that take time value of money into account. First, we are going to talk about single amount factors. Now, the most fundamental factor in engineering economy is the one that determines the amount of money F or yung future amount accumulated after n years or periods from a single present worth P with interest compounded one time per year or per period. Take note that the interest is compounded. No? So recall from the previous module that this refers to interest paid on top of interest. Therefore, if an amount P is invested at time t equal to 0, the future amount F accumulated 1 year after yung investment at an interest rate of I% per year will be equal to the principal P plus the interest earned during that period. So that will be based doon sa principal at the start of the period. So that will be equal to P times I. Therefore, the total amount accumulated after the first period will be equal to P times 1 plus I. Okay? So again, na-discuss natin to in our previous module. And then for the next period naman, the principal that we are going to use will be the amount at the end of the previous period. So that will be F sub 1. This will be F sub 1 plus the interest earned from that principal, F sub 1 times I. Okay? And now in terms of P, this will be equal to P times 1 plus I plus P times 1 plus I times I. And then, if we simplify this further, we will get P times 1 plus I squared. Okay? So again, yung derivation na to, we have discussed this already in the previous module. Now, to generalize this equation, to find F given P for n years, the following formula is used. So that will be F equal to P times 1 plus I raised to n. So the factor 1 plus I raised to n is called the single payment compound amount factor, but it is usually referred to as the F slash P factor. Now, this is also read as finding F given P. Okay? So yung first na letter dito, yan yung unknown natin, and then yung second letter, yan naman yung given. Okay? So that is finding F given P. Ito yung gagamitin natin na equation. Again, using this formula enables us to find the future amount F of an initial amount P after n years at an interest rate I. So the cash flow diagram for this case will look like this. Okay? Yung P natin or yung initial amount is given as well as the interest rate. And then again, using this formula, it will enable us to find the future amount F of the initial amount P after n years. Ngayon, paano naman kapag baliktad? Okay? So, yung future amount naman yung given, and then hahanapin natin yung present amount. So, kumbaga gusto nating makaipon ng certain amount of money in the future. So, yung tanong dito, ilan yung i-invest or i-deposit natin ngayon? Okay? So, there is no need to derive another formula na, Bali, yung gagawin lang natin dito is we will simply manipulate this equation algebraically. Gagawin natin is i-divide natin both sides by 1 plus I raised to n. This will give us the value of P in terms of F. So now we have P or yung present amount equal to the future amount divided by 1 plus I raised to n. Or this is also equal to F times 1 plus I raised to negative n. Ngayon naman, itong expression na 1 plus I raised to negative n is known as the single payment present worth factor or the P slash F factor. Again, yung first na variable dito is yung unknown, and then yung second is yung given. Again, in this case, yung present amount naman yung unknown natin given the future amount, F. So, this is the opposite of the formula introduced earlier. Kabaliktaran lang ng naunang formula. Okay, now remember that these two factors derived here are for single payments only. That is, they are used to find the present or future amount when only one payment or receipt is involved. Okay, so let us try to apply this to an example. A family that won a $100,000 prize on a lottery decided to put one half of the money in a college fund for their child who was responsible for the prize. If the fund earned interest at 6% per year, how much was in the account 15 years after it was started? Okay, so again, you know the drill. Pause the video and then try to solve on your own muna. Now, the unknown here is the future amount after 15 years. No? So, when you are solving these types of problems, I highly suggest that you draw a cash flow diagram first para hindi kayo mahirapan. Ito yung magiging itsura ng cash flow diagram natin. Now, or at the present, meron daw silang i-deposit na amount of money. And then, after 15 years, so dito sa end ng 15th year, ilan daw yung magiging value ng investment or ng deposit nila if the interest rate is 6% per year. Again, yung hinahanap dito is yung future amount given the present amount. So, gagamitin lang natin dito yung single payment compound amount formula. That will be F equal to P times 1 plus I raised to N. So, we'll just substitute the given values. Again, for the present worth, take note, 1/2 lang yung ilalagay nila doon sa college fund. So, this will be equal to 50,000. And then yung interest rate, 6%. And then the period or the number of period, that will be 15. In total, this will be equal to $119,827.91. Okay? Huwag nyo rin kakalimutang ilagay yung monetary unit. So, in this problem, that will be dollars. No? So, this will be in dollars. Next, we are going to talk about uniform series present worth factor and capital recovery factor. Okay, so ngayon naman, let us say that we have a series of end of period cash flows or investment as shown in the figure. At the end of the first year, we have a cash flow dito. Then at the end of the second year, meron naman up to the end of the nth year. Now take note that these cash flows are uniform or equal in value. So, yung hanapin natin dito is yung present worth ng mga cash flows na ito or yung annuity. Okay? So, again, annuity that is equal or uniform end of period cash flows. Now, an expression for the present worth can be determined by considering each A value as a future worth. Bali, iisa-isahin natin. No? Calculating its present worth using the P slash F factor and then i-add lang natin lahat. Okay? So, iisa-isahin natin yung mga annuity dito. First, let us take a look at the first cash flow. Bali, yung amount niya, that will be equal to A. And then to get the present worth, we will simply multiply this by the single payment present worth factor. So, that is 1 over 1 plus I raised to N. Again, yung period dito is just 1. And then for the next naman, same pa rin. Yung amount dito will be A. And then to obtain the present worth of this cash flow, we will just multiply the amount by the single payment present worth factor. So this will be times 1 over 1 plus I raised to N. So the number of periods of this cash flow from the present is equal to 2. So this will be raised to 2. And then so on up to the nth cash flow. So that will be A times 1 plus I raised to N. And then if we simplify this equation further, we will eventually arrive at this equation. We have P equal to A times 1 plus I raised to N minus 1 over I times 1 plus I raised to N. So, given that the interest rate I is not equal to 0, no? Kasi hindi pwedeng maging 0 yung denominator natin. Now, the term in brackets in this equation is the conversion factor referred to as the uniform series present worth factor or the P/A factor. Again, yung unknown natin dito is yung P and then yung given is yung A. This factor is used to calculate the equivalent present worth value in year 0 for a uniform end of period series of A values beginning at the end of period 1 up to n periods. Now, to reverse the situation, paano naman if yung P naman yung given and then yung equivalent uniform series amount naman yung unknown or yung A? Okay? So, yung gagawin natin dito is we will simply manipulate this equation to solve for A. We will simply multiply both sides by I times 1 plus I raised to n and then divide natin ng 1 plus I raised to n minus 1. So, now we have this equation to solve for A given the present worth or the present value P. The term inside the brackets here is called the capital recovery factor. So, itong sa loob ng brackets na to. Or also known as the A/P factor. Again, no, tatandaan nyo, yung first variable is yung unknown and then yung second naman is yung given. So, in this case, yung A yung unknown natin and then yung given is yung present worth P. This formula calculates the equivalent uniform annual worth A over n years for a given P or present worth in year 0 when the interest rate is equal to I. Now, if you notice from our cash flow diagrams, the present worth is located one period prior to the first A or the first annuity. Now, take note that the P/A and A/P factors are derived from this relationship. That is, the present worth P and the first uniform annual amount A are 1 year or 1 period apart. Now, if the uniform annual cash flow starts at the end of the second year, so yung present worth na makukuha natin using the previous formula will be the present worth or the P amount at the end of the first year. Again, yung present worth and the first uniform annual amount are always 1 period or 1 year apart. So if you wish to obtain the present worth at year 0 or at the start, no, at the beginning of the first period, bali yung gagawin nyo dito is we will take this P at the end of the first period, we will treat that as the future amount, and then we will solve for P at t equal to 0 using the single payment present worth factor or the P/F factor. Okay, so that's how you do that. Now let us try to answer this example. How much money should you be willing to pay now for a guaranteed 600 pesos per year for 9 years starting next year at a rate of return of 16% per year? So first, draw the cash flow diagram muna. Yung hinahanap dito is yung present worth P so that we can have a guaranteed uniform amount per year for 9 years, which is equal to 600 pesos per year. Yung interest rate natin dito will be equal to 16% per year. Now, based doon sa given and sa unknown, yung gagamitin natin dito will be the uniform series present worth formula. So, that will be P equal to A times 1 plus I raised to n minus 1 over I times 1 plus I raised to n. Again, make sure or always remember that the P and the A here in this formula should be 1 period apart. So as we can see in our cash flow diagram, these two values are 1 period apart. No? So, importante talaga na i-draw nyo muna yung cash flow diagram. Now, substituting the given values and then solving for P, this will be equal to 2,763.93 pesos. So, ito yung amount of money na kailangang i-deposit natin ngayon so that we have a guaranteed 600 pesos amount per year for 9 years. Okay? So, ngayon naman, let us talk about sinking fund factor and uniform series compound amount factor. So, in this case, no, as you can see in our cash flow diagram, we have a uniform series A. So, ito yung unknown. And then, to accumulate a given future amount F, kung baga gusto mong mag-ipon ng certain amount at the future, no? So, yun yung future amount F natin that is given. Bali, yung tanong dito is, ilan yung i-deposit or i-invest mo every year? How much should be the uniform annual cash flow para makaipon ka ng F amount at N period? So, the simplest way to derive an equation for this case will be to use the factors that we have already developed. So, basically, yung gagawin natin dito is we will take this future amount F and then we will obtain or we will solve for the present amount P at year 0 equivalent to that future amount F using the single payment present worth formula. So, meron na tayong formula doon if yung given is F and then yung hinahanap naman is P. Now, once we have obtained the value of P, we will use this to obtain the value of A. So, meron ba tayong formula para doon? Meron na, no? Yun yung capital recovery formula. Okay? We are simply going to substitute the value of P in terms of F here, dito sa capital recovery formula natin. Now, we have a formula for A given F. So, this can be further simplified, no? So, we will have A equal to F times I over 1 plus I raised to N minus 1. The expressions in brackets is called the sinking fund factor or the A slash F factor. Again, unknown yung A, given yung F. Now, this factor determines the uniform annual series A that is equivalent to a given future amount F. Now, take note that the uniform series A begins at the end of the first period and continues through the year of the given F. So, as you can see in our cash flow diagram here, the last A value and F occur at the same time. Ngayon, paano naman if yung A naman yung given and then yung F or yung future amount naman yung unknown natin? So, hopefully, alam nyo na kung ano yung gagawin dito. So, we will simply manipulate this equation or this formula algebraically, no? So, in order to solve for F given A. Now, we have this equation and then yung terms inside the brackets is called the uniform series compound amount factor or the F slash A factor. So, if we multiply this to the given uniform annual amount A, it will yield the future worth of the uniform series. Again, always remember that when using these formulas, the future amount F occurs in the same period as the last A. Okay, let us apply this to our next example. An engineer who believed in save now and play later wanted to retire in 20 years with 1.5 million pesos. Now, at 10% per year interest, to reach the 1.5 million peso goal, starting 1 year from now, how much must the engineer invest annually? Again, pause nyo muna yung video and then try to solve on your own. Madali lang to, no? So again, first, draw the cash flow diagram muna. Yung goal natin dito is to accumulate 1.5 million pesos after 20 years. So ilan daw yung i-invest natin annually, no? Starting 1 year from now. So again, since F yung given and then yung A yung hinahanap, we will use the capital recovery formula. So that will be A equal to F times I over 1 plus I raised to N minus 1. And then, simply substituting the given values from the problem, we will obtain the annual amount to be invested equal to 26,189.44 pesos. Okay? So, madali lang siya, no? Kasi direct substitution lang naman. Just remember the timings of the cash flows when using these formulas. That's why it is very helpful talaga to draw the cash flow diagram first before you attempt to solve any problems. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. Hopefully, meron kayong natutunang bago. So, see you on the next one.